Pucks in deep.
I like it.
These guys are jerks.
Pucks in deep.
Bless you, boys.
Young men expressing themselves.
Unbelievable.
Pucks in deep.
Put it in deep.
20 seconds, Draisaitl. One-timer score. Tyler Yamamoto. And Draisaitl has 6 points. 8-3 Oilers.
Put it in deep.
Flames right back on the attack. Lindholm drops it off. Here's Valimaki in front. They score. Johnny Gaudreau tips it in. The Lion blender pays off, and Gaudreau ties this game at 2. So Johnny Gaudreau with a chance to win it for Calgary in the shootout. Scores! 5-hole Johnny Gaudreau. And he started the comeback and finishes it. Crosby turns, shoots, he scores! Sidney Crosby in OT.
You know, getting pucks deep, putting the puck deep.
Put pucks in deep.
Just put the puck deep. Getting pucks out, getting pucks deep.
Pucks in deep.
Pucks in deep. Puck deep. Pucks deep. Keep getting pucks deep.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pucks in Deep podcast, episode 76, episode 2, if you're counting our video episodes. As many of you know, we released our first video podcast on YouTube just yesterday, or maybe the day before. Let's go. I don't know. The days are running in front of me here. But the quality, not the greatest that we've ever had, so we're really hoping on improving the quality here in video number 2. Welcome back to the Pucks in Deep podcast. How have you been, my friend? It's been a couple of weeks here.
Couple of weeks while we sorted out all these technical issues. You think we would have had them sorted out, but we just spent an hour dicking around trying to figure our shit out. So I don't know. This is a lot of learning curve for us here, but I guess shout out to Gio, our man, and helping us out and get this all sorted out and figured out for us to produce some more content for you folks. But what a crazy couple of weeks in the NHL. I mean, I don't even know where to start. They're, just going back to the intro, a couple of great highlights. Crazy night for the Oilers. Draisaitl and McDavid putting up stupid points.
Almost challenging Sittler's record, boy.
I know. We were on Sittler watch that night, but believe it or not, I couldn't believe that McDavid put up 5 points going -1, though.
Well, classic Edmonton. That's classic Edmonton.
Yeah. More of a reflection of the situation on that team and their inability to keep pucks out of the net. But can't chirp them too hard. I guess they took the Leafs on Saturday. So
Right. But yeah, man, you're right. Lots of excitement, especially as we heard in the intro. You've got Johnny Gaudreau scoring up to tie the game, and then he wins it with a really nifty shootout winner. Not sure if you caught that one, but I mean, the guy basically stick-handled the puck across the goal line on a Vezina caliber goaltender, who just earlier that game gave up like a 125-foot goal from the Flames blue line to Tanev, who just basically skipped one in through a couple of legs. And, so there was a lot to look at. But for me, it was the final highlight that we heard in the intro. Let's go. The Sidney Crosby overtime game-winning goal against the New York Rangers, which if you haven't been living under a rock, basically, the moment that goal went in, life came crashing down real hard and real fast on one recently waived Tony DeAngelo.
I mean, this story has been ongoing for quite some time. He seems to attract himself a lot of, well, at least in pro sports, you would say unwanted attention.
Right.
But this Crosby goal apparently put it over the top. And I guess for our listeners and viewers who haven't seen the story quite yet, essentially after Crosby scored that winner, there was a bit of a miscommunication between Georgiev and DeAngelo on the OT winner that led to a turnover, causing the Crosby goal. DeAngelo apparently says some kind of smart-ass remark to Georgiev, which results in a bit of a tussle in the hallway after the game, which also results in DeAngelo getting punched in the face. Don't think anybody feels too bad for him. And subsequently waived and unclaimed so far in the NHL. So that really got the ball rolling. And from the sounds of things, I mean, so much has happened in the story in the last like 24 hours, and we've been getting little bits of news as since that event happened. But man, I mean, this guy, if anybody's been paying attention to what's been going on with this guy and the controversy that seems to come with him, I mean, I don't care we'll put all the political views aside and the stuff that he puts out online, but could you
which is tough to do.
It's pretty hard to stick in the NHL if you're that big of a dick. I don't care how good you are at hockey. If you're that big of a dick, it's going to catch up to you eventually, and it certainly did with him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe unless you're a coach in the NHL, then it takes a little bit longer to catch up to you. But you're right. I mean, eventually it does catch up to everybody, doesn't it? And, you know, we've heard some more details coming out in this story with some suspensions back in his OHL days with the Sarnia Sting. You know, never really clarified exactly what happened to lead to the suspension in the OHL, but it was identified as a breach of the player's respectable racial something or other.
So it was using racial slurs.
It was racial, exactly.
And it was more than once too. So this is he was a known problem coming into his NHL career. And here you're playing in this big market in New York, and it was only a matter of time before this kind of shit was going to catch up to him. And, you know, this guy very clearly, if it wasn't known before, and I believed this before this altercation even occurred with the Rangers, this guy was obviously a cancer in the dressing room. Okay, people talk about big personalities in the game, but this is different, okay? Like, this is somebody who was clearly very much unliked by his teammates, so much so that there was a fight amongst teammates coming off the ice from that OT loss to the Penguins. And then they got to have a press conference to address him being waived. When's the last time you saw a press conference for a guy on waivers? Yeah,
no kidding. I mean, you know, and in all honesty, we do see teammates fighting from time to time, but it's always on the ice, Lesko. You know, or maybe it might be in the dressing room afterwards, but you don't hear about it. We don't hear about that stuff. You know, that's tight. That's with the boys. So you get to this point now, and this is also with the boys. The boys are fed up with your shit. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you knew about this either, Lesko, but Keandre Miller, who scored his first NHL goal earlier this season, apparently had the puck that he scored the goal with was hidden on him by Tony DeAngelo. And the story checks out with all their other teammates. But I guess he's trying to play it off like it was a joke. But the New York Rangers social media team releases pictures of all their rookie players, or, you know, whoever scored their first goal in the NHL. They have all the photos for that. And mysteriously, the photo of Miller with his first NHL goal puck was missing. And I guess eventually when the dirt was starting to be dug up on this whole DeAngelo scenario, that was also found out. You know, and obviously, as we know, Miller is an African-American player. And this just furthers the speculation that Tony DeAngelo is a racist piece of shit. And, you know, I hate to be so blunt about it, but, you know, sorry, not sorry, Tony. And enjoy your time on the buses and enjoy your time in Russia. And I wanted to ask you, Lesko, if you think that this actually is the end of the line for Tony DeAngelo.
I got to think so. I hope so. And, you know, thinking about the NHL and the NHL's inability to shape, you know, some of the cultural issues that plague them, I have a bit of concern that somebody's going to take a flyer on this guy and think maybe a change of scenery. We can make a player out of this guy. But you got to think it's the last straw, because the Rangers were that team. They gave him so much leeway. He had a podcast that was based on how politically incorrect he was, which I'm not going to get into that whole sidebar. But, like, the Rangers actively promoted this guy, right? And you know, he's getting into it online with people all the time. Yeah. You know, he's a, you know, super Trump guy, COVID denying and all that kind of bullshit. Okay, cancel culture this and blah, blah, blah. Like, nobody cares, buddy. Show up and play hockey. And he wasn't performing on the ice. So you knew the team wasn't happy with him in multiple aspects. You know, if you're going to be a piece of shit on the ice, or off the ice, you better bring it when you're on the ice. And he was doing neither. He's a terrible person off the ice, terrible player on the ice. Move on. And if I'm around the NHL, who wants to bring a known cancer like that into their dressing room? I just wouldn't want to take the risk at upsetting, the chemistry or the camaraderie that goes on in that room by bringing in some loudmouth douchebag.
Yeah, and you see, originally when this broke, and what I understood it to be just a miscommunication between goaltender and defender that spilled over into the tunnel, so they had a miscommunication on the ice. Great. It has been reported that there were 2 occasions earlier in the game. DeAngelo was actually on the ice for all of the Penguins' goals, including the OT winner by Crosby. But apparently there were, words exchanged between the goaltender and Tony DeAngelo at several points throughout the game. So initially when the story broke, I did tend to, chalk it up to a bad start to the season, some, bad feelings for one another perhaps. But at the end of the day, they'll move on past this. But then, word came down. It was a lot more serious than anticipated. A literal fight broke out. We're totally done with this guy. We already told him that one more time of him being in the news in a negative way would result in us waiving him. And that's exactly what the Rangers did. They came good on their promise. As far as the final strike, you're on thin ice. So originally I did say to a few people on Twitter and in my own conversations that I anticipated another NHL team taking a flyer on this player, probably at a retained salary or at, the ability for a team to move $3 or $4 million off the cap and make it a money deal to acquire the services of Tony DeAngelo. Because let's be honest, you just brought it up earlier, Lesko. There were times where he was a very effective NHL player. I had him in fantasy. At one point he was over 70% owned.
Yeah, there's plenty of people have drafted him in fantasy.
Yeah. So he was obviously doing well at some point. And like you mentioned, if you're playing well enough, then you can kind of hide some of this extracurricular stuff. But in this case, not playing well, being a terrible teammate, being a terrible human being, basically results in you getting waived. So after a little bit more details have come out, I am inclined to believe that we won't be seeing Tony DeAngelo in the NHL, maybe ever again. And that is probably nobody's fault other than Tony DeAngelo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's had it coming to him, and you can't continuously piss everybody off. Like I said, the Rangers cut him a shitload of slack, more than I would have cut him and more than a lot of other organizations in the NHL would have put up with. And, to put it over the Rangers as well, I always like to take a bit of a dive into the PR standpoint of this whole thing. They completely botched this. And like I said, to the point where they felt the need to have a press conference the other day to try and, quell things a little bit. But there was so much contradictory garbage in that press conference that they just made themselves look dumber in the process. I mean, saying shit like, he was very well liked by his teammates. Well, which ones? The other mega chuds? What the hell is that? Clearly not.
You got more racist teammates in there?
Yeah, what else you got in there? Exactly. And the other part of it was trying to refute the whole Keandre Miller first goal thing, which there's been mixed sources on that. I know Wyshynski was trying to talk about a different narrative that's emerged from him talking to high-level sources within the Rangers organization. But for them to say the original fighting back to that was, well, we were on a trip, road trip, so we only had so many people traveling with the team, and our social guy wasn't there. But yet there's a picture of another guy from the same goddamn road trip, pretty sure Lafreniere, with his first goal puck. So
that's right.
Again, just a mess from top to bottom. Moving on from the players so they can focus on hockey and not just trying to snuff out PR fires.
Well, yeah, and the Rangers even went so far, they were really trying to cover this up. You're right, dude, because when it was brought up about the no picture for his goal, they said the Rangers responded to that and said that's because the Rangers lost the game.
Yeah, that was the other thing they tried to say.
You gotta do your own fact checking, man. You posted another New York Rangers first NHL goal in a losing effort. So it's just so bad. People not doing their homework. Very, very poor damage control. I mean, let's be honest. Damage control is a big deal when you're talking about a massive organization, whether it be financially speaking, like Robin Hood looking for a media specialist that can deal with crisis control, or, you know, a sports organization, and one of the biggest ones on the planet in New York City. I mean, you just have to be able to do your own homework a little bit better than that, and just know when to say, all right, Twitter, you win.
Yeah, we're talking about like Ottawa Center's Melnick level of PR fucking blunders at this point. Like, it's getting to be embarrassing. Get your shit together, New York Rangers. You're one of the biggest, most valuable franchises in hockey. Figure it out. Now, tell me, you're the golf guy here on this podcast. Could Patrick Reed, you the fucking PR guy here, or what?
Hold on, dude. We're getting some technical difficulties here, my friend.
Oh boy. What did you get yourself into?
The cord isn't working properly. I'm just going to jam you in that port right here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so go ahead and start over, my friend. I got you on record right now.
Like starting over the whole show, or just
no, like what you were gonna say about the golf situation.
So if there's another guy who could use a little PR help out there these days, I imagine it's Patrick Reed of the PGA Tour, because I don't know about you, you're a big golf guy, you watch way more golf than me, but that's the greasiest shit I've ever seen in a golf match, and nobody is giving this guy the benefit of the doubt. Nobody. And I hate, by the way, I'll also put this in there, I hate the way golf commentators and golf analysts pussyfoot around his cheating. Like, they don't, you know, they bring up little suspicions, but no one's like outright being like, this guy's a dirtbag, but he's a dirtbag.
Well, listen, let me tell you, man, Sir Nick Faldo, and Brandel Chambly, those guys were not holding back at all. You know, like, I understand, Lesko, like you said, you're not huge on golf. You probably weren't watching, you know, live from or the after hours feeds. Like, I was soaking all that in because I couldn't wait to see what everybody had to say about this Patrick Reed situation. I mean, I don't know. I guess we're getting into it. I don't know how long we're going to go on it. There's lots to unpack, bro. You know, it started in Bermuda last year when he dug away.
Yeah, he fluffed his balls up, and
he dug
the trap.
Four or five shovelfuls of fucking sand out from behind his ball so that he could get better contact on the ball. And after it was brought to his attention that he was caught on video, yeah, hey, Patrick, you're on the fucking PGA Tour, chump.
Yeah.
All right, there's cameras. So he goes, oh, I didn't realize I was doing it. Okay, so I believe they gave him a stroke penalty or something on that one. I can't remember, honestly. They gave him a penalty on that one, and he went on, no big deal. Now, this one here, this past weekend, ball lands in the rough, bounces about 4 or 5 feet away from where it landed. This is the part that everyone, Patrick Reed included, seems to want to get stuck on. Nobody saw the ball bounce. Nobody in the group, the playing group, his playing competitors, their caddies, the volunteers. There was a volunteer that was like 5 or 6 yards away from the ball. She said she didn't see it bounce. She didn't say that it didn't. She said she didn't see it bounce. So
he exploited that.
Yeah, he exploited that. That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
And exploiting is such a great word.
Because he knew the ball wasn't embedded. There's no way it was embedded, right?
Well, here's the thing. And I will give him this benefit. I will, because I'll give it to Rory. And it happened to Rory later on.
So if it's embedded, why did he pick up the ball then?
No, but you have to pick up the ball to see if it's embedded. So this is where I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. If all of the playing partners and the caddies and the volunteers are all saying no one saw it bounce, then you have to check the ball because it's probably embedded if it didn't bounce. So in lack of having video, which is all of those people that I just listed, the volunteers, Patrick Reed and his playing partners and caddies, none of those guys have access to video, but we do at home. So while we know at home that the ball bounced, Patrick Reed nor the playing partners, caddies, or volunteers, none of them know that it did. So him checking the ball is completely legal. Him moving the ball is also actually legal, even though you may think that it's greasy and whatnot. It kind of is, right. But it is legal. You are not allowed to palm the ball or remove debris, which is what he did. He palmed the fuck out of that golf ball.
I saw him fiddling with the ball for like 5 minutes, it felt like, before he moved it.
The other thing that is quite clearly illegal, but also unable to be proven in court, is the fact that He finger fucked the hole. He fucking finger fucked it like 6 or 7 times. And at one point, you can see his body like leans forward. I'm going to do it from the side for the viewers at home. He leans forward as he's grabbing his golf ball and leaning into it.
Yeah.
He's
breaking that divot.
The embedment. He created it.
Yeah,
he made
no doubt.
sure that the ball was embedded. After finding out that it wasn't, okay, his next play should have been, hey, guys, it's not embedded. I'm going to put it right back. And then you fucking put it right back. And if you're Patrick Reed, you can cheat then. You can cheat then.
Do you think it, like, common sense, you bring the line judge over and be like, all right, let's look at it, or the guy who wanders around the course, whatever you call him, the
rules official.
Yeah, you figure the fact that he already had moved the ball and the rules official was like, oh, okay, sure. Like, I was like, this is bullshit. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's the kind of stuff I would pull, going out for 9 and dying with the boys. Like, that's a joke, right? Dude, it's just to simplify it for everybody. Basically, what happened here is he looked at the ball, didn't like the lie, picked it up, finger fucked the ground, and said, "Oh yeah, look, it was embedded." Yeah. That's horseshit.
It's horseshit.
Because usually when that happens, it's so obvious on video, like on TV too. Like it happened a bunch at the previous Masters, right? Because the course was super soft. Balls were just going right into the greens often too. Yeah, they were just sinking right in.
And you know what, dude? He's such a condescending asshole. Like, so he moves his ball. It's fucking over there. And he says to the rules official, yeah, my ball was embedded, and I just want you to come over and confirm that it's embedded. So the rules official is like, oh, okay, well, where's your ball?
Where's the ball? Exactly.
He goes, oh, I moved it already over there, but here's the hole. Here's the hole right here, and you can feel the lip. And even as he's talking to the rules official, he's in there. He's fucking in there trying to get the hole off before he has to go home. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, come on.
Oh my God.
And then the rules official goes, oh, okay, well, do you mind if I, put my finger in there to check it out? And Reed has the audacity to go, well, how else are you going to check it? Like, you're putting this rules official in the worst position that he's ever been in in his career as a rules official, where he has to now sign off on a PGA professional who knowingly cheats.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. He knowingly cheats at golf.
So there's someone who should say does not deserve the benefit of the doubt once again whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, you got all these fucking people on Twitter just blowing it up. And that's where the story gets really good, dude. Because the official Patrick Reed Twitter account is ran by his wife, Justine.
Okay. There
has long been a rumored burner account belonging to Justine.
Right.
It is extremely pro Patrick, as you can imagine. Right. And it's very anti JT, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy.
Right.
So later on in the round, Rory McIlroy had quite literally the exact same scenario where no one saw his ball bounce and he went up and he checked it. And it turned out to be embedded, even though the ball did bounce. And you can find some frame-by-frame slow motion videos, let's go, of Rory McIlroy's shot where it literally lands, pops up, and goes right back. So it can't be 100% confirmed without a doubt of, uncertainty or shred of uncertainty. But it does really appear that Rory's ball plugs, exits the plug, and then lands back in the plug. Whereas Patrick Reed's, you can very clearly see that it
goes forward.
Yeah, it lands way further away, like 5 or 6 feet away, not even close. So Rory's situation was the same in the sense that he hollered over to his playing partners that he believed it was embedded and he was going to check. He did check. It was embedded. He cleaned it off, took his drop, which is free relief, and then continued to play. Now, the Patrick Reed, Justine Reed alleged burner account posted a message in all capital letters along the lines of, Rory McIlroy did the exact same thing on 18 and no one cared. How come only Rory and not Patrick, or whatever, right? Moments later, the exact same tweet, verbatim, all caps, same hashtags, same everything, was shared as a new tweet, not a retweet. It was shared as a new tweet from the official Patrick Reed Twitter account. So that blew golf Twitter up. And everyone was saying, oh, it's confirmed. It's confirmed. And I had to listen to two, the Foreplay podcast from Barstool Sports and also the No Laying Up podcast, which is another golf podcast. And like those guys had such a great time breaking this down. It was a lot of fun. It was a really interesting weekend, dude. And Reed ended up winning by 5 shots. So it's not like if he did take a two-shot penalty that it would have mattered. But at the end of the day, he's still a scumbag. He still cheats at golf. You will never change my mind.
Yeah, no, you won't change mine either. And I don't follow enough to comment on too much. But I mean, if I follow as little as I do, and it's very clear to me this guy cheats, like it's embarrassing. Like, you're a pro golfer, buddy. Like, figure it out.
Yeah, you'd have to live under a rock, especially to.
And people are watching this guy now. He's being watched, right? Like, everyone's watching this guy to make sure he ain't fluffing it or whatever he's doing. So, anyway, enough of this crap. Back to the ice. Tell me what you're feeling right now. I guess who should be more embarrassed, I guess is a good question. Is it Patrick Reed right now or Connor Hellebuck after letting in that goal from the blue line in that game?
Well, it's hard to say that.
Does that take you right off the Vezina ballot when you let in a Toskala-esque goal?
It was Toskala-esque. Actually, you know what? I feel it might have been even worse than the Toskala one. Because at least with Vesa Toskala, the poor fucking guy, at least it was bouncing like a jelly bean.
Yeah, those are tricky bouncers. You got to watch those.
It was tricky. This one here with Connor Hellebuck, it's hard to say that Patrick Reed should feel embarrassed after he probably won a cool couple mil after winning that Farmers Insurance Open. So I'm going to go with Hellebuck on this one, especially because, Hellebuck won't have to feel embarrassed about this. Not only if the Jets were to have won that hockey game, which, as you could hear from the intro, they did not. So, he's a little embarrassed there because, that goal that he let in factored into the losing cause. But let's say big picture, the Jets go on to win the Stanley Cup. Let's go. I think you got your answer. I don't think he's going to be too bothered about that.
No, probably not. Not if he's bringing home the hardware again for the Vezina Trophy. It's just that one's going to stick in people's minds for a while. It's one of those ones that gets on the top 10, and it'll follow you around forever. But I mean, if you go on to have a great career, hopefully you make some other memories that fans will bring up instead of that one because it's pretty ugly. But staying on the topic of the Jets, of course, huge deal, big old hockey trade, just the way we like them. Pierre-Luc Dubois going to Winnipeg for Patrick Laine, heading down to Columbus. I got a lot of thoughts on this one, mainly that I didn't, I can't recall if we talked about it previously, myself and you, but I didn't think this deal was going to happen simply because Pierre-Luc Dubois being a high-end guaranteed first-line center, I figured he would command a little bit higher return. And a lot of people are saying, Laine being the better player just simply by virtue of goals. But I'm thinking Columbus wasn't able to get a center back in this equation, and this was the best possible player they could get. So I think right now it's a win for both teams. Winnipeg getting rid of their Patrick Laine problem, and Columbus getting rid of their Dubois problem, but also getting some goals.
In a perfect world where Pierre-Luc Dubois didn't really even see being traded, like he didn't know that he was going to be traded, and it was a shock. I think the return is much bigger in that scenario. But in this scenario, Lesko, what you said just isn't right. It doesn't matter. You think it should be better. You'd want him to get it. You'd want Jarmo Kekalainen to get a centerman back, et cetera, et cetera. It ain't going to happen when you're selling moldy goods. Now, the difference with these moldy goods is as soon as they go to another person, the mold magically falls off. The mold is only existing with Columbus. So, it became stale. It became moldy with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But as soon as you trade that player somewhere else, and I guess we have to wait and see because Dubois hasn't made his debut yet with the Winnipeg Jets. But we'll have to see what happens when he does, because it'd be very interesting to me to see if this trade is going to blow up in either party's favor, or faces, I should say. But at the end of the day, I think Jarmo did a really good job getting a player like Patrick Laine, because let's be honest, let's go. His hands were tied. He had to move the player. How can you win a trade when you know that you have to move the player?
Yeah, it obviously became an untenable situation there where, he played a career low 355 in an OT loss against Tampa Bay. And, of course, Torts didn't want to say jack shit about it either.
Well, did you see a shift in that game?
I did see a shift, but it was after he hadn't played half the game. So, I expected him to go out there and shit the bed on purpose. Being like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to play. Yeah, sure. I'm going to go cruise around here if you're going to treat me like this. So I do have, I'm not going to say sympathy for Dubois in that situation, but I'm not going to shit all over him like a lot of people were by saying like, well, yeah, look at him. Torts is right. He's dogging it. Yeah, he's already in the doghouse. He doesn't care.
Right.
Like if I'm probably going to do a similar, I shouldn't say I'm going to, but I could see somebody acting in that manner in that situation.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was after being benched. I thought,
like I said, he only played 4 minutes in that whole game, so he hadn't played. I can't recall exactly when it took place in the game, but he had barely played in that hockey game when it took place. So like he's
you're right.
He's already checked out mentally this game a long time ago.
Yeah, no, you're right, because I do recall on Twitter the news broke that there was 11 minutes remaining in the second period, and Pierre-Luc Dubois had 4 minutes of ice time or something like that.
So he's already gone in that game in terms of like being engaged. So, but it's going to be interesting because I like to go back to Columbus, and I think there's a fascinating element here just in the Tortorella aspect of it. And I know they didn't give us anything in terms of player-coach relationships and stuff, but how long can Jarmo Kekalainen let this go on? Because I like Torts, I'm a fan. We've talked about him before on the show. But how much longer can you let this go on? How many more star players can you afford to lose because of a coach? Because right now, you brought in Patrick Laine, and he was having a hard time. We'll get to that in Winnipeg in terms of the dressing room dynamic, and it sounds like the coach and the organization kind of left him out to dry as well in this situation. But here you've got Patrick Laine, a guy who's already probably sensitive to his surroundings, coming in to play for Torts. Torts is going to break this man.
Oh, yeah.
Or if he doesn't break his Xbox over his fucking head.
Listen, one of two things is going to happen. Either Patrick Laine is going to become the greatest goal scorer the league has ever seen, or we may never hear from Patrick Laine again. And I mean that jokingly. Like, he's always going to be a good hockey player. But I think this transition will be the PID turning point, pucks in deep turning point, patent pending, or trademark pending. I don't know. Trademark. Anyway, this is going to be the point in time where he either elevates and gets to another level and everyone goes, oh man, I did not expect that with Torts, or those people are going to be right. And what they expected is going to happen. And he is going to fall off the face of the earth and get 18 goals on average until he retires.
Just based on what we know about the player right now in Patrick Laine is that I just don't see him thriving in the environment. Now, maybe he proves us wrong and he's new surroundings and he's feeling freed, because by the sounds of things, the situation in Winnipeg was not much better. Because, I mean, when they interviewed the captain, Blake Wheeler, he goes on to say, like, yeah, maybe I could, basically, to paraphrase, yeah, I could have been a little bit nicer to Patrick Laine and a little more accommodating. Because what it sounded like is that him and Scheifele didn't want to play with him. And here
that's what they gave him.
Yeah, you've got this first-line talent who the two first-liners don't want to play with. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
and
but that's also like Paul Maurice, is it not? I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
Who coaches the team here?
Right, and to not be able to settle the dressing room dynamic, I guess you could say. But from the sounds of things, not only did Paul Maurice side with the captain, so did the general manager, so did everybody else. So it's interesting that this clearly went on for quite some time, because I can remember a long time ago being like, geez, Laine's down on the third line. He's on the second. Why isn't he getting those big minutes with the big boys who are, it's a very talented first line that Winnipeg can ice here. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough situation for being. I totally understand and sympathize with him for wanting to get out. I guess the irony in this whole situation here is that here's two guys who more than likely, Dubois, it was actually reported, that wanted to go to a bigger market and a bigger stage. I bet you Columbus and Winnipeg were pretty far down both of their lists, don't you think?
Well, no, I would disagree, just in the sense that while Winnipeg isn't necessarily a large market, it is a desirable market for a hockey fan and a hockey lover.
Yeah, but you look at the players poll, and every year, what's last?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's because they don't like going there.
They got fans. But right now there's no fans, so it's even worse, right?
But that's where I was coming from. They have diehard fans. They fill the building. They got the whiteout with the towels. It is a great atmosphere. You're a hero. You will be a hero in Winnipeg. But the problem is you're in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a little bit gritty over there. And interestingly enough, too, is that Dubois was phenomenal. I mean, we watched him play the Maple Leafs last year in the play-in round. He was absolutely dominant every single game. So you got to hope that he can kind of return to that form and put Winnipeg on the winning end of this deal, because they did give up Jack Roslovic, we failed to mention so far.
Right.
As well as deal.
Not just a throw-in.
No, he's not. He's a former first-rounder. Guy with some potential, but because of Winnipeg's forward depth, maybe has not gotten the opportunity that he will see in Columbus.
Yeah, and what was the deal with Roslovic too, man? Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but something about his contract holdout or dispute.
Yeah, well, it was that, and he had also requested a trade. So they got two birds stoned at once there. They got rid of two guys who wanted out. Now,
sorry, I was just going to say, it is such an interesting theme there, though, when you see, two former first-round picks, one of them incredibly high at number 2.
Well, you got second and third picks getting swapped.
Yeah. Well, no, not just that, but I meant Roslovic and Laine. But you're right. I mean, Dubois was number 3, right? So, they should just go back in time, and Winnipeg can draft Dubois, and Columbus can draft Laine, and everyone would be happy.
You'd think so, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out with, Scheifele kind of being the guy in terms of centers there. But Winnipeg just got a whole lot deeper at center for sure, and I know they signed Stastny to be their second-line guy, but he's makes for an excellent third as well. But keeping on the topic here of trade requests.
Sorry, don't you think it's a little unfair that Dubois can't play, but Laine can? I think that's unfair.
I guess. This whole thing's unfair, isn't it?
No, but it's just, I don't know. You make a trade with a team, and the player that you gave away is playing tonight, and the player that you acquired can't play till next week. And it's not because of a visa issue or, I don't know. It's not because of anything other than differing quarantining regulations.
It's out of their hands, right?
I know there's nothing we can do, but I think it sucks. That sucks. It sucks. Yeah. It's good for me because I'm playing Dubois in my fantasy league this week, so It's good for me.
I think it sucked for them regardless. I mean, obviously you don't plan to move on from such high draft picks and guys who have obviously performed very well for your franchise. So, right. I mean, I think just moving on in general is a nice little turn the page moment for both of these teams. I did want to keep it on the topic for a second just because we did have a bit of news in terms of more trade demands, because everybody apparently is going all NBA on everybody and wants to get whatever the fuck they want.
But
our favorite agent, Mr. Darren Ferris, made public a couple of juicy trade requests from Victor Mete out of Montreal and Sam Bennett out of Calgary. Now, the Mete situation I get. He's in a bit of a depth problem there with Montreal, a young guy who was pretty highly touted coming in. I know the Canadians and Canadians fans were excited about this kid, but hasn't really been getting the opportunity due to the added depth on Montreal's back end. But Sam Bennett, I thought, was a bit surprising because there's a guy, I know his name's been trade rumored for a number of years now. It's just surprising to see where I feel like he had carved out a pretty good role there. So maybe you can add a little more to that situation.
Yeah, I always find it really interesting when players request trades. It becomes public knowledge that the player wants out. But what never seems to become public knowledge is why. Why? We always have to speculate. He's getting third line minutes and he thinks he could do better or whatever. And I'm sure that that's all fine and well. I'm sure that that's the exact reason why. But there's got to be more. Like there has to be more, whether it's coach, teammates, accommodations.
Yeah, there are so many factors here, right? That it's hard to wrap everything up. We usually look to the ice and the stats, like you said, where's he playing in the lineup? It's you think it's hockey related, but we have no idea, so it's hard to speculate on.
No, and it's funny because he's a difficult player for the Flames to move on from, if you ask me. Not that he's world beater by any means in terms of points, but when you flip over to the playoffs, I mean, he's got 19 playoff points in 30 playoff games. So this is the kind of guy that really turns it on when it matters the most. I mean, you're talking 8 points in 10 playoff games in 2019, 2020, and 5 points in 5 playoff games in 2018, 2019. Obviously, one series and out on that one. But he factors in all over the score sheet, let's go. I mean, he also has 38 PIMs in 30 playoff games. So he is really active out there. First round, 4th overall in the 2014 NHL entry draft, peaking in points at 36 in 77 games played back in 2015, 2016. Lately, not so great. 12 points in 52 games last year, 27 points in 71 games the year prior. So, I mean, if you're buying on Sam Bennett, I think you're buying low. But if you're selling on Sam Bennett, Calgary Flames, you've got to do everything you can to show the potential suitors that, hey, if you want to go somewhere in the playoffs, this is the kind of guy that you want to have on your team, because that's the only way that they're going to win a trade involving Sam Bennett here.
Yeah, I think he's got, I shouldn't say offensive upside, because we really know what he is at this point. He's proven that he has offensive contributions, but I think, maybe not getting a role on the power play in Calgary. I believe at one point he was playing center previously. Now he's playing third line left wing. I feel like he just might want to play a bigger role on the team, and he's never really gotten that opportunity ever since he arrived in Calgary. It seemed that they had high expectations from him, and then guys like Gaudreau came in and Monahan, and he just got lost in the shuffle, when they started getting good again, and never seemed to get a ton of recognition or a ton of minutes or anything. So he might just be saying, like, hey, this is where I'm at in my career. If I'm going to maybe take that next step, I got to do it somewhere else, because clearly it's not here in Calgary. But just really interesting to see this many players. I can't remember a short period of time like this where we've seen this many trade requests, and especially one that came to fruition with 2 guys who wanted out.
Yeah, and you know what? That one was really extra interesting because they were swapped for each other. So, I felt like that was the only way that either Winnipeg or Columbus was even going to win the trade for Laine and Dubois, respectively, was to trade them for each other, because they're both disgruntled. You guys are going to lose the trade if you go somewhere else, and so are we. So why don't we just flip each other? We'll take your problem, and you can take our problem.
Trade your problems.
Solve it that way. Yeah, exactly. But for Mete, just flipped over to his DB screen as well. I mean, the guy's got 172 games played in the NHL. What does he want? This is kind of coming back to something that I've been realizing and bitching about a little bit, Lesko, on my own time, is how the league has clearly shifted to players running the fucking show. It used to be owners, GMs, coaches. I mean, you used to be afraid of your coach. Mm-hmm. When your coach contacted you, you were terrified. Come and see me in my office tomorrow. Fucking terrifying. I haven't talked to you in 3 years. Now I'm going into your office tomorrow.
I don't even know your name last week.
Yeah, I'm obviously traded or sent down. But now you got phones, obviously texting, Facebook message, whatever. I think it was Sheldon Keefe actually who just mentioned not too long ago in one of his interviews that he's keeping up with all of his players daily. I mean, that's probably 2 or 3 hours out of his goddamn day, texting fucking everyone, seeing what they had for dinner and how they're doing. Players run the show now, and they have to be protected. They're all, I don't want to call them divas, but oh God.
You want them to be happy.
It used to be fucking get over here, fucking play, and do the best that you can. Otherwise, you're fucking gone. And now it's I'm the best. And fuck you, I'll get you fired if you don't want to meet my demands. And I don't like it, Lesko. I don't like it one bit.
Yeah. I think it might extend beyond the realm of players who might have the right, because it's funny. I can recall saying things a few years ago like, "What is this guy? Where does he get off to demanding a trade?" It's just. I think there's a lot more value placed in players being happy. I mean, if a player's not happy, he's not going to perform for you. And if you are a hockey team and you were investing millions of dollars a year in this hockey player, he's going to have to be happy if he's going to give you the most return on investment. So it's in the best interest of a team to be like, okay, it's not working out. Let's try and get the most from you. And if you think they can be reasonable, you can say, no, you know what?
Yeah.
We're not planning on moving you at all, so you better suck it up and play.
Yeah, well, it's like Brian Burke mentioned about this. This was some time ago when the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade request came down, like before he played that last game and that terrible shift that everyone talks about. Like Brian Burke made a good point. He said, when I was in the league many years ago, if a young player came to me and said, I want to be traded, he was sent down. Not only was he not traded, he was sent down because you got to earn it. You got to start at the bottom and you got to earn it. And alternatively, or conversely, I should say, Berkey said when a veteran came to him and said, I want out, he was traded ASAP, as in he will never wear the jersey again. And it's almost spiteful. Or at least Berkey made it sound spiteful, although I think he could be over the moon happy, win the lottery, and still make it sound spiteful. But he was basically saying, if the veteran doesn't want to be here, I don't want him here either. If the young rookie doesn't want to be here, I want him to suffer for thinking that he can run the show.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me started thinking about this whole transition between players running the show and the way it used to be, where players used to come in and be a little bit afraid and be really trying to prove their value.
Like I said, I think it's a little less of the players running the show and a little more of just the teams having more of a connection with the players as human beings and being like, okay, you know what? I understand your situation. I understand where they're coming from. We'll do our best for you, not making any promises, which I think is probably a responsible way to approach it, no matter what era we're talking about here. But
Agreed.
Another factor I think that plays in right now during the pandemic and the taxi squad and the no AHL situation we have is that a guy who's not playing regularly, it sucks. Like, could you imagine how much it sucks? You're hanging out in the rink, watching the game, no crowds, you're not playing, all you're doing is practicing, you can't get sent down to the A. It's just, for guys who've not played a game of hockey right now, where would it be, 3 weeks into the season, 4 weeks in the season? That's got to be tough. So I think that might have spurred some more interest in players being like, you know what, I want to get out. But I think there's some spillover from the Laine Dubois effect where people go, these guys got our way. I might as well give it a shot too.
Yeah, and in Mete's case, I'm not sure if he is a taxi squad member or if he's just straight up a healthy, but he's only got one game played so far in this NHL season, this 2021 NHL season. So, yeah, I think you're right on that one, Lesko. I mean, if you're not playing, it can be really tough. And maybe it's less of a, trade me right fucking now and hang the phone up, and more of a, hey guys, do you think you could try? Do you think you could just see what you want? Because if you're not playing me, then you don't want me, and I want to play. So in that aspect, I definitely am siding more with the players' demands, or not demands, but the players' request to be moved. If it's just asking the question, like, hey, I'm in the booth, I'm actually allergic to popcorn, so there's no point in me being up there. Can you move me along somewhere? Yeah.
All right, if we're going to move along here, obviously we'll get off of that topic. I did think it was interesting that Darren Ferris went public with it, but as we know, that man is as bold as agents get, so I guess it's not surprising on that front. Let's take it over to the Toronto Maple Leafs, though. I know we're always chomping at the bit, and you and I don't miss a minute of any Leafs hockey, so there's lots to go on with. I did want to plug an article by a friend of the show, Luke Fox, before we get into the Maple Leafs and before I forget. He did a really interesting piece on the Amazon series that's being produced and shed a little bit of light on that. A couple interesting tidbits is that they have actually been present there since the beginning of camp and will be there till the Leafs are done, whenever that may be. And one of the other things is that some of the players have mentioned that it's a lot less intrusive than, say, the previous series that the NHL has done, Road to the Winter Classic, things of that
Yeah,
nature.
the HBO one.
Whereas Amazon, in order to try and adhere to all these protocols that are in place, have utilized a lot of different robotic cameras and candid cameras essentially throughout the facilities to capture different moments. So
Yeah, like
I think
they're fixated in a spot and it's always live.
yeah. So go check out Luke's article on Sportsnet, and I think we really, if you're a fan of the old HBO series, if you're a fan of the Road to Winter Classic, I think we're in for a real treat here.
I think so, dude. I did read I did read Luke's article, or maybe it was another one, I can't remember, but they said that the narrator has yet to be identified. So I'm still holding out hope. Maybe they'll give me a call to narrate the documentary. But let me tell you this before we move on past this. I had this big message ready to send to one of my group chats, and I ended up erasing it because I didn't want to be that guy. But I'll gladly be that guy now on the Pucks and D podcast, episode 76. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. I think that maybe this documentary could have a massively positive impact on the team. And for that, I have two reasons. One, I just think that it adds something else to kind of take the edge off. And you would think maybe you'd say, well, Josh, maybe it's the other way and they're nervous that the cameras are around. No. What you just said is why I'm refuting that argument, because often they're not even there. And if they are there, they're over there and you guys are doing something. It's not like they're right in your face. So I feel like it might take the edge off and allow some of the veteran players to be a little bit more like goofy and just friendly and just create a better camaraderie amongst the group. And the second reason, which can't really be proven, I guess, but it's just speculation. It seems to me that when we have these kind of documentaries, they end in a very good way, right? So you had like the Last Dance documentary.
Yeah, because they end in January.
Right? Yeah. No, I mean like the Last Dance documentary and Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, like that was obviously done many years after, so we know they won. But they didn't know that they were going to win that year when they were doing the documentary. And there have been other documentaries, and I can't remember them now for the life of me, but there have been other documentaries that followed sports teams, and the teams ultimately won in that documentary. Now, maybe we don't see the other documentaries where they had a camera crew in for, this year's Ottawa Senators team. Well, pretty bad idea. I mean, the team's not very good. You're going to end up canceling your documentary halfway through. But I'm just holding out a little like, I don't know, gray area hope, or like just a random hope and a thought that maybe this documentary will bring us good karma and the documentary will end culminating in the Leafs' first Stanley Cup in 1,000 years. And it just so happened to be the year that they had Amazon here doing the documentary. I just think that maybe those two isolated incidents could marry each other. And then, of course, you throw in the fact that we got this crazy Canadian division, and we may have a chance to not only win the first round, but maybe also a second round within the Canadian division and not face an opponent south of the 49th until the conference finals. And then you have one 7-game series against some team. I don't even care what team. Fucking pick it. And that's a chance to go to the Cup. I mean, if there was ever a chance to go to the Cup, let's go. It's right now, isn't it?
I love how you shared that wet dream with the listeners. So I'm sure they're really going to appreciate that.
I had to.
No, I think it's going to be cool. I'm really excited about it. I've always been a big fan of the series. Hopefully it's uncensored, and especially with the injection of just some interesting personalities into the mix this year. I mean, we got Wayne Simmons, we got Joe Thornton. We've got a team that tried on purpose to change the dynamic and camaraderie in that dressing room. So I think it's going to be a real cool year to have a sneak peek at the Leafs. We got Sheldon's first full year with the team, and he's obviously an interesting guy as well. So I'm really excited about it. And like you said, it could culminate in the greatest of ways or end tragically. It's going to write itself. But I think the NHL is really onto something here. Apparently, they've been pitching to the different streaming companies for years, trying to get this into a series. So this is a big step forward from a PR standpoint for the NHL, because this is going to put them in front of an audience that is not maybe yet experienced the NHL whatsoever, especially south of the border, because they want to kind of put themselves on par with the NFL, the MLB, and basketball. You mentioned The Last Dance. I'm not the world's biggest basketball fan, but you're damn right I watch that.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Michael Jordan's in a different stratosphere, but they want to find a way to reach that larger sports fan audience, and I think this is a good ticket to find their way to it.
If the Leafs do win the Cup this year, Lesko, is there any reason for anyone to put on their tinfoil hat and make the assumption
100%.
that it was rigged for the Amazon documentary?
People are probably already saying that.
Well, you might as well say it now so that if it happens, you're right. That's why I shared my wet dream with everyone, because if it happens, I'm going to be like, I knew it. It was the documentary. I knew it.
All right.
I'll be over here. Let's go. I'll be over here like, I knew it.
You got to get one you can drink out of. Or instead of filling that thing full of air, why don't you fill it? I guess people are listening. He's holding up an inflatable Stanley Cup. They probably got out of a beer case or something.
No, I got it at the Hall of Fame.
Instead of filling it full of air, fill it full of beer.
I got it at the Hall of Fame. But I do have one that you can drink out of, but it's our Fantasy Hockey League trophy, and I didn't win last year.
So you don't get to drink out of it.
I had to ship it to my fucking buddy. Congrats, Hendy.
Ah, there you go, Hendy. Take that. So how we feeling about the Leafs so far? You know, it's interesting. I know we've had previous episodes of the show where things have kind of hummed along for the Maple Leafs, and I feel like that's where we're at right now. I feel like they're meeting expectations. I know we have a lot of pretty rough injuries, but have seemed to get by okay without these players and having some of those guys fill in the depth when maybe we were scared about depth last episode. But I'm not gonna have a lot of shade for the Maple Leafs this week, and none of the individual players for that matter either, because I think they've kind of played where I expect them to play and have been relatively competitive and starting on time, which is a whole new thing for us that I really appreciate.
Yeah, well, I'll even chip in another one to that. Let's go. Starting on time, big one. I think if you flip the calendar back a year ago to the day, that was something that we were complaining about all the time, every episode that we had. Hey, welcome back to the Pucks and D podcast, episode whatever, 51. The Leafs didn't start on time today, and they crawled back and lost in overtime. Those things have changed along with, the starts, I should say, have changed along with the ability to hang on, the ability to protect, and maybe protect is the wrong word.
Win those one-goal hockey games.
Yeah, win the close game. Win the close game. Hang off. Win the fucking thing in regulation, And we're doing that against teams in our own division. Now, of course, every game you play is in your own division, but let's pretend it's not. If they were playing other teams, if they were playing Florida, if they were playing St. Louis or Chicago or anyone, the ability to make sure that you take home that 3-2 victory and leave it be 3-2, maybe 4-2 with an empty netter, that's a Leaf team that I'm not used to watching. And I can tell you right now, let's go, I can definitely get used to watching it. 15 points in 10 games, 7-2-1 through our first 10, sitting first right now in the North Division. Obviously, one more game played than the Montreal Canadiens, who are right on our heels. They actually have a better winning percentage than us. And winning percentage is really going to be the ticket here, Lesko, because it looks like right now we're at about 10% missing or postponing games for COVID-19 protocol. So if we average that out over the rest of the year, I don't think it's going to stay at 10%. I think it'll probably be more like 15 at best, which means we're going to be missing about 70 or 80 games. Not out of the 56, 70 or 80 total games across the NHL. Do you think we can make that up? I don't know. I don't know if we can make that up. And it has already been speculated that it may come to the point where the NHL will have to say, that's it. We talked about this last episode, Lesko, the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team, 2022. They got to come in 2021, 2022. They got to come in here and hit the ground running. So we can't extend the season. So if at some point they are going to close the curtains on this season, it's going to come down to winning percentage. And we're going to have to stay on top of that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to follow, and it'll be interesting to see if they choose to factor that in. I know they're going to try and jam in as many games as they can, and the teams obviously that are facing delays, there's a number of them now who have dealt with COVID outbreaks in their dressing rooms. So it's going to be difficult, and I think it's too early to say whether or not we'll reach their goal of a 56-game season. I can only hope so. Obviously, we want to see as much hockey as we possibly can. And especially, Maple Leafs hockey. I mean, I've been watching every game. I've been really enjoying this. I've been staying up for the late games. I mean, having hockey start so late in January just made me clamor for it more. And I've been happy to watch, and I feel like they've competed in most games aside from that loss to Ottawa. So not a whole, again, going to take it back, not a whole lot to complain about. I did want to bring up briefly the 2 games against Calgary. I thought they were pretty interesting. They were pretty chippy. We showed a bit of that character, a bit of that toughness maybe that we lacked previously. But I don't think anything topped it off for me better than watching Jake Muzzin flip the puck at Matthew Tkachuk. And not only that, just a little act of devious, haha, fuck you, buddy. But Matthew Tkachuk losing his shit as he went off the ice, trying to throw everything he could get his hands on.
That was really shocking. I'll tell you. Maybe it's not shocking because, let's be honest, we all know Matthew Tkachuk is a very colorful player. We all know he's a very hard player, and he wears his heart right here, right? So we know all that about Tkachuk. So maybe it's not surprising that he had the little tantrum. The reason why I feel it's a little surprising is, that's his thing. He does that. He flips the puck.
He gets under people's skin.
Yeah, he gives you the little butt end when no one's looking. He's the one that does all that stuff. He puts his stick inside your glove and just pisses you off. You just have to punch him in his face and take a 2-minute penalty. That's what he does. Yeah. So Muzzin gets him, and it's back-to-back wins for the Leafs, and the Flames aren't happy about it. And what we've seen so far in the regular season, Lesko, and this is across all the divisions, when there are multiple games, Team A that loses game 1 wins game 2. It's almost always like that. They're splitting it. Everyone's splitting it. But, you get into this situation, the Leafs beat up on Calgary, and they're not too pleased about it. As a matter of fact, they're really upset about it, and you could see how upset Matthew Tkachuk was. And I just found it really surprising that he would give the Leafs, and not only Leafs Nation, but all of the hockey world,
all the Tkachuk haters.
Edmonton fans that hate him, he gave them what they so longed to see, which is Matthew Tkachuk acting like a little bitch, which is exactly what he did.
He certainly blew the gasket. It's not that surprising, I would say, given, like you said, the level of intensity, wearing your heart on your sleeve, and those kind of guys are like that. But it was just interesting because usually he's the one, like you said, bringing it on somebody else, pissing you off, making you lose your cool, making you take a penalty. So I think there was a little bit of snide satisfaction to be had in seeing Tkachuk blow a gasket like that. And just for Muzzin to say, I'm not going to goon this guy. I'm not going to take a penalty against him. I'm not going to screw around with him. And everyone's like, oh, there's going to be revenge for the Campbell Henry. No, we're going to win this hockey game. And then I'm just going to show this fucking little squirt what's going on out here. So I had a good laugh at it. And you can see the look on Muzzin's face, too. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he couldn't ask for a better result.
Well, I can tell you one thing, man. I know, obviously, I'm assuming you were watching it live as well. I was busy, celebrating, woo, nice win for the boys. And then I was looking, and I was like, oh, man, what's going on? Because, they cut away with the camera, and then they went back to what was happening. And when they went back to it, fucking Tkachuk was it looked like he was going to punch Matthews. He was standing right next to Matthews, and I was like, oh, my God, no. No, please, for the love of God, what if Tkachuk just hauls up and fucking smashes Austin Matthews?
Now they're buddies, thankfully. They're buddies.
Oh, so. True. Yeah, good point. But you know how it is right now. Tkachuk got spun around. After I watched the replay, I understand what happened. Tkachuk got spun around, and Muzzin was kind of way over there. And he wanted to get at Muzzin. And he looked at Matthews. I think he thought that he was Muzzin at first. Then he realized he wasn't, which proves your point, or is further to your point, that they're buddies. Otherwise maybe he just fucking clocks him, just to get back. Because he was going crazy. He didn't know what to throw. He's breaking the stick. He thought about tossing the fucking Gatorade bottle. He didn't know what to do. It was a real farce, I'll tell you.
I know. I laugh a little bit, but I've been there. So
You've been there.
I was that guy, and that's why I got all the respect from Makachuk. Love the way he plays hockey. Would have him on my team, and I'm sure would love him if he was in Leaf Nation for sure.
I would too. No doubt.
All right, you want to wrap this one up, son?
Yeah, we can wrap it up, buddy. I'll save my Twitter story for next episode. Let's do that.
Of course, yes.
I had a Twitter.
Twitter story, but believe it or not, folks, Mr. Josh Coleman got into it with someone online, but it's not what you think. This time it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't.
Well, that's the teaser. That's the trailer. Teaser trailer for next episode.
All right, we'll tease it for next episode. So that's it. Episode 76 is a wrap here on the Pucks and D podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for watching the first episode. We're hoping that this one's going to be produced a lot faster with a little bit better quality. And I'm looking forward to getting this one out. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed to the Pucks and Deep podcast channel. By the way, Lesko, I did manage to get it fixed to just Pucks in Deep the way you wanted it. So so it's just Pucks in Deep on YouTube, and we've actually been gaining subscribers at a pretty steady pace over the course of one day. So keep that up, share it around. We've been getting some great feedback, even though I wasn't super proud of the video quality that I had here on my video. I hope that it's improved on this one. And we were getting some really good feedback, and a lot of people saying that they didn't listen to the podcast, but they for sure are going to consume our video episode. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I'm looking forward to producing more and more. And let's go at some point at the end of this, I feel like I'm going to be able to apply for some sort of like technical producer or video editor at some big firm somewhere after all the learning I've been doing here.
Oh, you keep padding that resume, buddy. The sky's the limit.
All right, follow us on Twitter at Coleman42, at Lesko Adam, and follow the station at PuckPod. Drop us a line as always. Email is realpuckpod@gmail.com. And feel free to leave us a comment in the comment section below. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys when we see you.